Hey there, and welcome back to the Tourism Marketing Mastery Show. I'm your host, Erik Hatterscheidt, and today I've got an amazing guest on the show. His name is Chris Torres, and Chris is an incredible tourism marketer. If you look up tourism marketing, he's most likely going to be the number one person that comes into your screen on the space, because not only is he amazing at marketing other outside tourism companies, but he's great at marketing his own company as well. He's one of the few marketers out there that I've actually seen practice really well what he preaches. And you can see that in the space. He's created not only a ton of content, but he's created a lot of trust and loyalty within the tourism market. And he is a powerhouse when it comes to actually providing value. So I'm excited to have him on the show today. Chris, how are you?
I'm very well, Erik. How are you yourself?
I'm good. Pretty good. We both live in countries that are traditionally fairly cold and stormy, and it is actually cold and stormy here right now. What's it like in Scotland?
Believe it or not, we are having a bit of a mini heat wave at the moment.
Oh,
So the last, which is unusual. The UK has had the warmest April and start of June on record. So it's I actually have a little bit of sunburn before being out in the garden. So which is unusual for Scotland, but no, can't complain. No, we're in lockdown, but at least I can enjoy the garden and sit in the sunshine.
I think you guys must have stolen our weather, because we're having the coldest year on record. So I'm a little bit jealous, I'm not going to lie. All right. Well, without further ado, let's jump into today's topic, Chris. So the reason I brought Chris on is because Chris has a phenomenal insight specifically into how to utilize direct marketing, bringing in bookings directly to a company without relying exclusively on OTAs or third parties. And Chris has some stats that blew me away when I first saw them in terms of the return on investment that you get with the marketing campaigns that they are putting together, or at least the potential return on investment that they get. So we'll get into that later in the interview. So stay tuned for what kind of return on your marketing dollar you can see within this space. But before we get into that, I think it's important to lay some foundations for what we're going to be discussing, and we're going to illustrate some points where there are some myths and misconceptions in this space. And if you have some confusion around digital marketing or Facebook marketing specifically, which I think we all do, then you're going to want to listen to the rest of this interview. So, Chris, I'm going to jump into things here. As I mentioned, there are a lot of myths and misconceptions out there when it comes to digital marketing in general, but when it comes to Facebook marketing specifically. What are some common things that you've seen, having worked with the number of clients that you've worked with in the industry?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's probably 2 or 3 points I can raise with that one. Usually, the first issue that people have within the tourism space when they use Facebook ads is they've tried it once, think it's rubbish, and never try it again. And it's usually just down to not utilizing the platform properly, or using the right demographics, the right target audiences on Facebook. No, Facebook make it very easy for people to create an ad and publish it out there, or boost a post, but ultimately that's not the best method of doing things. No, you have to look into your actual demographics, look into your target audiences. Should they be male, should they be female, age groups, all these different things before you even consider running any Facebook ads. But again, Facebook makes it very easy for people to do so, because ultimately they just want your money at the end of the day. So usually that's the first issue that I come across, is people just generally try it once and never go back to it because they don't think it works. And the other issue I see time and time again is, and don't get me wrong, this can work to a certain extent, but normally people will just create an ad purely based on a product, promote that on Facebook, and they may get 1 or 2 sales, but more often than not, it doesn't actually produce anything. The issue with Facebook or any social media platform is no one goes onto those platforms to buy a product. That is not what they're there for. They're there to look at what their friends are doing, what their family are doing, look at funny stories in the news feeds, and ultimately that's what it's for. So you have to take your customer along a different journey to, like any form of marketing, know and trust your brand. So having an ad just to promote a product doesn't normally work. No, you normally have to take people to a high value piece of content, show them why you are good at what you do, show them if you're a tourism business, again, show them the experience that that person could have if they take out one of your products. So it's more about content and driving content and raising that awareness about your brand. And then further down the line, once they've interacted with your business a few more touch points and a few more ads, then you can ask for the sale, but not initially. No, people won't really buy from you from the first ad they see of you promoting a product. So that's usually the other big one that people get wrong as well.
Interesting. So if you don't mind, let's go a little bit further down that path. When you say that you can't just put an ad directly in front of them, what do you put in front of them? Is there a sequence of different kinds of ads that you kind of walk them through to get them to that spot where they are interested enough to click on the button?
Yeah, for sure. So we call it a Facebook funnel. I hate to use the word funnel because that actually puts people off, but it's the only word I can think of to make it to explain what it is. But basically, a Facebook funnel can be anything from 3 to as many ads as you wish. So usually the sweet spot is about five, maybe 6 ads at the most. But the first ad is always a brand awareness ad. So you're driving people to a high value piece of content. So you want them to get onto a landing page, as many of your target audience as possible, onto that landing page to read something of value to them. Again, the thing about the content is you've got to offer them something of value, something that answers an issue or answers a problem that they may have, or something that customer is ultimately looking for, or maybe has been looking for in the past, whether that's a tour or accommodation or anything like that. So, but not to sell that product. It's to, like a travel guide, not offer something of value that might excite that potential customer. From then, you might lead them on to more ads to sign them up to an email newsletter. Again, it's adding value. That could be a downloadable PDF guide. We're doing one just now for a food tour company, and they download a cookbook, so they can download that and cook recipes at home. Because we're in a lot of destinations are in lockdown, people can't visit these restaurants, so they can actually cook these things at home, and they're doing a campaign around that with a hashtag that they can post their disasters or anything they can put online in terms of anything they've cooked, whether it's good or not. Yeah. And again, they're just doing that just to add a little bit of sense of fun. And again, it's not selling a product, it's just raising awareness, letting people know that you're here, generating a little bit of fun, excitement. So things like that can be done, as well as an email marketing list to send out emails to them as more travel guides type thing. And then when you get to the sort of third and fourth ad, that's when you're maybe sort of saying, okay, here, we'll show you a video of an experience, again, 60 seconds, again, showing the highlights, showing what you can offer that potential customer. And then once you've had that many touch points, that's when you can maybe start softly asking for the sale. I'm sort of saying, are you interested? Did you like what you see? Are you interested in taking out one of our products? But again, not being purely sales focused or promotions or anything like that. Just again, gently easing them into a sale. And ultimately, if they like what they see and they like what you do, and you can show your worth and show your trust, having your TripAdvisor reviews on there, on various bits of content, things that make you seem a trustworthy company, that is when they're more likely to buy further down the line. So it might take 3, 4, 5 touch points, but that's when you normally ask for the sale after that.
So you've got this system that it seems that you've dialed in. How did you figure out that this was the system to use within tourism? Or maybe it's just the system to use in general.
Just experience. No, don't get me wrong. Like any agency and any business, though, we have also tried just posting up ads on Facebook or these other platforms to sort of see how they perform. And yeah, you might get the odd inquiry or the odd booking. But what then I found that by doing it this method, it was more just by testing to sort of see what would work. And by testing the funnel with a few clients, then it seemed to work, and we refined it. We do a funnel specifically for each client. So how the content and how the funnel works isn't always going to be the same for every single client. The number of ads it just depends on who you are. Like a day tour company, for example, the funnel would be a lot shorter than a multi-day tour company, because they've obviously a lot longer buy-in time, so or lead-in time. So it just depends. But by having some sort of funnel like that to excite people, it does tend to work. So for a day tour ad, for example, or a day tour company, you tend to target outside of destination. So if you know where your customers basically come from. So if you're in the UK and you get lots of American customers, so you would target America to excite them. The thing about day tour companies, for example, is no one really buys a day tour ahead of time. They'll buy in destination. They'll buy a day either on the day or the day before, or that they are in that destination. No one likes to have their schedule tied up that quickly for that much for a day tour. So, but what you can do is prep them. So when they do know, they'll know about your business, they'll know what you do, etc. And that's a good thing about Facebook, is you can target people who are maybe looking at coming to your destination, or frequent travelers, or have an interest in a particular destination. Then you can excite them that way. So when they do come, they'll remember your brand, and then hopefully book from you at that point. So day tours is a little bit different, but for multi-day tours that you have a lot longer lead-in time, you can give them lots of really good valuable content. And then when they buy, you can continue that content even after they purchase as well, because normally when you buy a day tour, it's usually 6 months in advance, or maybe even longer. So you can even give them more content while they wait. So,
it sounds like I'm gonna shift gears here a little bit, but it's really down the same path. I can tell that you, in the tone of your voice, I can tell that you believe in what you're doing and you're excited about the process that you have within Facebook. Is there, or I should say, was there a point in time where you had your own kind of aha moment with Facebook specifically, because I know that you've been involved in some capacity or another, you've been involved in marketing for quite a while, marketing, branding. There must have been some point for you where you discovered the power of Facebook and had some kind of aha moment. Is that true?
Yeah, no, I suppose I did. No, when we saw the results for one of our clients that we produced this funnel for as a test. No, it was a great client. They were one of the first ones we did this on, and it produced amazing results. So that's when we decided, okay, there's something here. And we started looking more and more into it, and that was the aha moment. It was sort of saying, okay, you don't actually need to spend a lot of money on these ads. $5 a day in some cases for some of these ads. That's per ad, but it still comes in lower than the cost of a typical day tour. So per day, which in the grand scheme of things is nothing if you're getting lots of leads in. But that's the thing about Facebook, is it's not just about yes, bookings are obviously important, and you're building that up, and people need to build up that revenue, especially nowadays. But ultimately, you're building up future customers as well, because you will always have that data, or Facebook will have that data that you can then target people who are interested in you initially, and then you can target them further down the line. So it's always creating and adding more and more and more people to your target audiences and to your custom audiences within Facebook that you can then target going forward. So the more data that you can collect doing that on Facebook, the better it will be in the months to come. Because for people listening, they may not realize this, but if you are creating email or generating email lists from Facebook and collecting that data, or just in general collecting email data, you can then upload that all into Facebook. You can then create custom audiences, and Facebook can target those people from, if it finds them on Facebook with that email address, can target those people on Facebook. But not only that, if you have, I think there's roughly about 1,000 people from the same destination on the list, if you upload that as well, you can then create a lookalike audience. So Facebook can find people with the same interests, the same people who were interested in you originally. You can even add values to this. So if you had past customers, you can add the monetary value to each and every single one of them, upload that information into Facebook, and Facebook will find people who are similar interests and will probably spend the same amount of money and target them with your ads as well. So that's why email marketing lists and having a Facebook ad that builds that up and helps you build your email marketing list and helps you build your audiences is vitally, vitally important. Not just for now, but for future.
The concept that you've got there is huge in terms of the opportunity that's within that. I firmly believe that this is still an opportunity where we'll look at this 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, and say, I can't believe we could have built up an audience that cheaply.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, this Facebook for me is where Google Ads was 10 years ago, or however long it was. Yeah. So no, Facebook is the cheapest at the moment, is the cheapest and most targeted platform out there by far. no, the amount of data that Facebook holds is incredible. It really is. It's frightening, but it's from a marketing person's point of view, it's incredible. You'll never find another platform as cheap as it. No, Twitter ads are, in my opinion, a waste of time. LinkedIn ads are a waste of time. No, the only two good platforms for advertising, in my opinion, is Google Ads and Facebook. And the good thing about Facebook at the moment is it's one of those platforms where the large online travel agents or and companies like that don't really touch. No, they tend to focus purely on Google Ads, and they may do the odd little Facebook campaign here and there, but they hardly touch it. So it's one of the platforms where a lot of tourism businesses, whether accommodation or tour operators, can still gain traction on. That's why if you're not already doing it, Facebook ads is the way to go, and at least build up those audiences just now while it is still relatively cheap. No, I was just doing some stats just now. I'm creating a report for a client in San Francisco, and for her to target her food tour business. It was a small business, but for her to target her food tour business with people in and around her area. Oh, he's been lost. Hello, hello. And you're back.
Sorry about that. You were just getting to the crux of that story, and I was like, "This is gonna be good," and then I popped out for whatever reason. I just dropped connection.
Jim just does that sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll go back a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just doing a report just now for a food tour company in San Francisco. Though very small company, spending $5 a day on a few ads. And I'm just actually, as I say, I'm writing the report just now, and for her business to target her demographics, which is mostly women. This is actually for a Father's Day box, for a Father's Day food box at the moment. She can target people in a local area for as little as 19 cents per click, which is incredible, which is insane and if you think, San Francisco, it's a highly competitive area.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tour companies there, food tour, bike tours, you name it. So for 19 cents, I urge anyone who can find a better cost per click on any other platform or marketing. If you get it cheaper, great. And that's the good thing about Facebook as well. The more Facebook learns about what you're trying to do and about your ads, and as long as you refine your ads and follow Facebook's guidelines, so Facebook will tell you if your ad is performing above average or below average or whatever. So if it is below average, tweak the ads, tweak the content, tweak the images or the video, try and get that average score up, which means your cost per click will come down. So the better you can make your ad, the cheaper it will become. Previous month, our ads were 58 cents per click, and now we've got it down to 19. We hope to get that down a little bit further, but that's what Facebook can be. It's the cheapest form of advertising that is out there, and you can be super, super targeted with it as well.
Which tells me that you don't want to play this game where you jump in, try a few ads, and then get out. Even if it works for you, even if you happen to be that lucky few where you just jump in and you get it to work for you, you definitely want to keep playing that game. Or if you find someone that really knows what they're doing, case in point, Chris Torres, then you definitely want to make sure that you're leveraging that expertise and continuing that ad spend to bring it down and continue building that audience. And one thing that I want to address that is also a major misconception here is, the most common thing that I actually hear from tourism operators is, "Oh, we're full. We're full for this next few months or this season. Why would we want to continue to market?" Do you want to touch on that question?
Well, I think the current it's a very good question, and I think the current climate can answer that one, to be honest. Whether you are busy or not, you should always have some form of marketing going on out there, because no one knows what's around the corner. Having it, even if you're just running a Facebook ad, just as a brand awareness ad, just to let people know you're here, ask them to sign up to an email marketing list, whatever that would be. Something as simple as that. Doesn't need to be selling a product. You should always be doing something, because again, no one knows what's around the corner. We've had this COVID virus hit us. A lot of businesses are now thinking, okay, I don't have anybody to market to in terms of potentially asking them to take out tours, whether it's later in the year or in 2021 or whatever that would be. Especially those who are really heavily reliant on OTAs, who don't really get much of the data because which a lot of people may or may not know, is if someone books through TripAdvisor or any other, whether it's Get Your Guide or Booking.com or wherever, normally what happens is when somebody makes a booking, the other company at the side of it who's actually taking it, that person out in that product or experiencing that product, doesn't get that data until they've at least experienced your product. So after the fact. So for all these people who have had so many bookings through these companies, but they've all been refunded because of COVID, they wouldn't have got that data, so they can't actually email the customers and say, look, can you postpone? Can you do this? Can you do that? So without that data, you're basically lost. So you should never stop collecting data. You should never stop marketing to get that data. Even if it's just an email address and a name, that is enough for a lot of things to upload stuff into Facebook. That's all you need. Just get as much of that as possible. Never stop marketing for at least that aspect of it.
I'm gonna take that point, which is absolutely key, is having that potential customer base, as well as your customer base, growing those lists. And I'm going to translate that into what that looks like as a resort co-owner.
Yep.
What that really means is if you continue to market and you continue to build a list, even when you're full, that's the most powerful thing that you can do. Actually, I literally just had this conversation with my mother, who's, because we own this resort together with my family. My mom and dad were the original purchasers, and now I help them run it. And because of this COVID thing, it's been interesting for us. We're in a unique situation where we're full. We did some interesting marketing things at the beginning of the year. We used Facebook, and we're full. And my mom was like, we got an opportunity from someone, a local digital publication, that said, hey, we want to promote you guys for free, basically. Would you be interested in that? And my mom was like, well, we're full. Why do we need to do that? And I was like, okay, I have to give her this lecture again, which says it's the simple law of economics, supply and demand. If we're already full and people are calling us and we have to say, hey, you have to book a year in advance if you want to get in, that drives the price up. And it has for us. For the last 5 years, we've utilized that as a concept, and our price on average goes up anywhere between 10 to 25% a year, which means we're far higher priced than anyone else in the market. And I'm just illustrating that point for anyone else, like anyone that's listening to this right now. Don't get stuck in that trap of thinking, oh, we're full, so I don't need to continue marketing. That's a terrible mindset to be in, because there's always opportunity to either scale or increase prices based on the demand. So you're going to get that return on investment even if you're full.
Yeah, but not just that, no, especially if you're doing, if it was a PR piece or something along those sort of lines like you're mentioning, that's something that's always going to be online. So the longer that's online for, and I'm going to switch tack here and talk about a little bit about SEO, but as long as that's online, the longer it's online, the more SEO juice that your website is going to get from the backlink from that. Yeah. So when that's on for 2 or 3 years, that juice is just going to increase the quality score of your website. So never stop an opportunity like that from happening, whether you're busy or not.
There's no reason to say no to that. I mean, if they were like, oh, it's going to be 10 grand, then different story. But an essentially a free piece of marketing. It's worth looking at. Anyway, so I didn't want to make that about us. I just wanted to take what Chris was saying and translate that to here's what that looks like in the real world if you actually practice this. Another question that I thought would be interesting to explore here is, within the tourism market, this is my perspective. This is just from the individuals that I've talked to and I've engaged with, but I would actually say that the majority of the tourism businesses that I've had conversations with, whether that's an activity provider, tour provider, lodge, resort, island, whatever, the majority actually don't advertise on Facebook, which surprises me. I know that there's this sense of like, oh, we tried that once and it works. From your perspective, is there anything else? Are there any other reasons why someone just isn't capitalizing on an easy investment?
Yeah, and to be blunt, it's because people want to do something like Google Ads or something like that because they expect it's going to generate them revenue as quickly as possible. That's usually what it just comes down to. So, and I get that, though. I'm a business owner myself. You want to generate revenue for your business, to sustain it, to grow it, everything else. But sometimes you do need to take a bit of a back seat and sort of say, okay, think more long term. And that's not to say you can't get quick sales on Facebook, you can. But it's thinking Facebook can take a little bit longer to get that sale, and that's what most people that I've come across tend to be put off with. Some people get it, don't get me wrong, but others tend to think, no, I need money now. And that's usually because the thing about any business, whether it's a tour business, hotel business, and when they approach an agency like mine's, it's usually because something is broken, something hasn't worked, or they are worrying about their revenue. That's usually what happens. It's because they need to increase their revenue straight away. They want to get bookings, they want to get that. And unfortunately, that's usually the wrong time to come to an agency. It's not to say an agency can't help, but it's usually the wrong time because they have one goal, and that's to generate revenue. Whereas, and I've actually created a podcast on this in the past, but no marketing agency can guarantee anybody bookings. If anybody does say that, they're lying to you. No, what an agency's job is to give you every opportunity and guarantee you leads and inquiries. That is what they should be, and every opportunity to get those bookings. But the actual bookings themselves, no agency can, because agencies aren't, for some instances, not in charge of your website. They're not in charge of booking platforms. They're not in charge of how your sales team conducts themselves with your customers. There's too many things out there that we are not in control of. So,
absolutely,
but that's usually when it comes down to it. It's usually saying, "Oh, we need money now," and that's usually when they start approaching agencies like myself.
And there's a kernel within that says if they're struggling that much, there's potential. This isn't always the case, but there's potential that the offer itself needs to be adjusted. So in other words, you as an agency can't control what the end product is. So sometimes they need to work on, what does that look like?
Exactly. It could be down to the product. It could just be down to, we've worked with some companies in the past, I won't mention names, who have had absolutely terrible reviews, and trying to get them bookings was hard. Trust me. So that it comes down to a whole bunch of other things. It could all just combine together. It could be small little things, it could be big things, but ultimately, I think every business can generate bookings through Facebook or other methods online. But businesses who don't, like you were mentioning there, it could just be down to the content. It could just be down to how they might just be targeting the wrong audience. To give you a prime example, one of the companies we were helping in Ireland, when they first approached us, and a big thing of what we do is doing a lot of research before we take anybody on for marketing. So one of the first steps every customer goes through is it's a one-off project. We do the research. They could take that research and go with anyone they like or do it themselves, but that research has to be done. Because when we worked with this company in Ireland, what they said that their target audience was the over 50s market. That's where they saw most of their customers from, and mostly Americans. But actually, when you looked at their Facebook analytics and their followers, when you looked at their Google analytics and a whole host of other things, you actually found that half of the traffic their website was getting was from 25 to 34-year-olds. So people were coming on at that age range, but they were actually bouncing straight back off again because the content wasn't right for them.
Right.
So that left them two options. This is the good thing about doing that research. It sparked opportunity. It gave them two options. Do we change? Are we targeting the wrong demographics, or do we change the content and create new products for the audience who are obviously they're looking at our products in the first instance, and that's exactly what they did. They created new products for the younger age range. They actually created two sub brands, and their business exploded because they had products there that can cater for the audiences that were coming to them anyway. 50% of their traffic. So it was an easy thing for them to just create new products. It was basically the same products, maybe with a little bit more energetic walks and slightly higher hills in Ireland, whatever that would be. But they loved it, and that generated extra business for them. And that's the beauty of knowing this data within Facebook and the data within Google Analytics from the stuff that you bring to your website and you create and the email list that you create. That's data. It comes down to data at the end of the day, and that's all important.
I see that as being a crutch for a lot of businesses, is that they see that component as too complicated to even delve into, to even look into the data. And I can understand your thought process around that, because you're thinking, that's a lot of numbers and things on the computer I don't understand. However, I would argue that it's worth paying a fair amount of money. I know that's not a concrete statement, but it's worth paying a good amount of money to know what that data is, because there are often there's a golden opportunity within that data. case in point, I know for us, we looked into the data for Google Analytics, and we found that when people were searching for us, those key terms, one of the key terms that people were searching really high on the list was cabins with hot tubs. And we didn't have hot tubs, but also knowing that nobody else in the area had hot tubs with their cabins either. I mean, there's lots of places that had hot tubs, but not necessarily a cabin with a hot tub. So we said, oh, unique opportunity here. Well, guess where the most lucrative bookings come from for us now? Well, we put a hot tub in, or put hot tubs in, and now, you know, now that's where
it's amazing what a hot tub does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing what it does. Me and my wife, anytime we stay in Scotland or go down south to England, the first thing my wife says, it has to have a hot tub.
Yeah.
So
it's which, I mean, it sounds so obvious, but at the time, and this is a little while ago now, at the time, it wasn't something that was really on our radar. It was like, it was like, it would have been a guess unless we saw it in the data and said, there's a huge market out there. A ton of people are asking for this. Yeah, let's put it in. Anyway, so that was a really, really key point. One thing I didn't want to miss in this interview, Chris, was if you don't mind, we've talked about some of these components, like here's what the steps are that you need to go through to capture attention and move that into a booking. Here's how you capture an audience, why it's important to continue advertising, and looking at the data, that's important. Putting all of these things together, if you don't mind giving us a little bit of a summary of the case study that you showed the other day. I don't know if you will remember that off the top of your head, but I think it's important for any of the listeners to know. It was impressive for me to see what can you potentially get for return on investment. If you're putting X amount into ads, what have you seen in return in reality? So this isn't a theory scenario. This is an actual case study, which I'm going to assume is not necessarily an anomaly case study. I'm sure you've got better and worse scenarios, but it's something that foreseeably, you know, you can replicate if you focus on Facebook ads. Can you walk us through what that?
Yeah, sure. So this was actually for that similar client in Ireland. So they wanted to promote Skellig Michael, which is an island off Ireland, which is not easy to say. And that was the island that was used in the recent Star Wars films. So there was a bit of interest, etc. within it. So we created 2 landing pages ultimately. One was aimed at people who love Star Wars, but also had an interest in Ireland and had obviously Americans with expats, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then the second ad was similar targets, but who didn't have a care for Star Wars. It wasn't really something that they cared about. So we had those 2 landing pages up, and we drove 2 ads. Each ad was $10 or €10, and that drived people to one of those pages. From there, we had another ad, which was asking people to sign up to travel guides. So this is where the owner was providing information about Ireland, about what you can experience when you're over there. But these were just plain text emails with his email signature at the bottom. So it looked as if it came from his email address, even though it was all automated in the background. It was pre-written ahead of time, and it gets sent out once per week. Yeah. So we set that up. People signed up for that as well. And that was targeting people who landed on the landing page but did not sign up for the email marketing list. And you can do all that through Facebook pixels and everything else, which is another podcast in itself. So from there, a third ad was a video showing highlights of Skellig Michael, what you would experience when you were there. It lasted about 60 seconds. And then the last ad, so we only did 4 ads for this one. The last ad was the sales ad, but again, not overly sales focused. Another little video. In fact, no, this one was a carousel ad, sorry, and showing some images and sort of saying if you're interested, we'll find out more to the product page. They could buy the product if they wish. So it was those 4 ads. First 2 ads on the landing pages were $10 each a day. The other ads were $5 or €5 a day. Yeah, so not overly expensive whatsoever. Yeah. So that ran from the 26th of December, because usually the day after, and for anyone who's listening, normally what happens is the day after Christmas Day is, for a lot of destinations, is a big day when people start looking for trips and holidays abroad. Yeah. So you should always have something up for Boxing Day onwards. So 26th of December, that ran until, I think it was the 15th of March, just before COVID, or when the restrictions really came in. So it was about 3 months. So in total, they spent just over €1,600. I don't know what the conversion of that is in dollars, but just over 1,600 euros. But they made back, and the caveat on this is they're a multi-day tour company, so they had a higher value price ticket. They made back just over 80,000 euros in sales from a 1,600 spend. It was over a 4,500% return on investment. And that was purely all from Facebook.
So if you're listening to this, I need to illustrate that again. That's over 4,000% return.
It was something like 4,600 and something or other percent.
Yeah. So, I mean, the numbers are mind-boggling. Like, you don't see that in any other investing industry. Like, you know, most of the places where you invest your money, if you're getting 10% on your dollar, you're saying, oh, that's pretty good. Now, I understand that you want a fairly reliable source of investment, but I'm also going to argue that Facebook is, in a lot of ways, a fairly reliable source of investment. You put the money in, and of course you have to have the time, either your own time or you find somebody that knows what they're doing, like Chris. And there's a good chance that you're going to get the money back in spades if you have a good offer and you know what you're doing and you market it properly. So even if you completely failed that campaign, for instance, and you only ended up with a 100% return, that's still much better than you're going to get on your money most other places. So it's absolutely, if you've got the money in your business, you're saying, hey, we've got some money, where should we spend this for the best return on investment? Facebook really should be one of those things that's at the top of your list. So with that, Chris, I'm going to ask the question, you know, there's going to be a number of listeners on this call, or sometimes there might be watchers here if you're on YouTube. And the question is going to be, how do I know whether I'm a good fit to, like, at what point am I supposed to be doing this myself? And when should I transition to looking at, when does it make sense to bring on someone like you that's an agency? Because if let's say I'm a micro operator in Indonesia or Africa, or, well, it doesn't have to be those countries. You can be a micro operator in Canada or the States or Scotland or whatever. And you're like, well, the whole company is making $50 a day. So it, like, at that point, does it make sense to bring on an agency? I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, if they're only making $50 a day, probably not,
Yeah.
to be honest. And the thing about some agencies might, but the thing about my agency is if they're making $50 a day, that there wouldn't be much an agency can do with that, to be honest. And I wouldn't even say it was affordable for a lot of businesses. So $50
no,
a
and
day.
that's my question is, what's that transition point? Where does it make sense to come to you? What's your qualification for, hey, I know I can help you at this point? And I know there's a gray zone in there, but roughly, yeah. I'm trying to get people to understand when they should give you a call.
Yeah, I would say there's a couple of points to that. One is, ultimately, as a business owner, do you have the time to spend doing Facebook ads and running that? That's obviously another big thing. I know business owners, even myself included, we wear many, many hats in terms of running a business. But as my business coach always says, try and hire people at doing a various task better than you can. That's ultimately what's going to grow your business. Yeah. So if you want to spend more time running a business and actually doing the things that matter in your business, hire someone to do the Facebook ads. You can get freelancers out there. You can get people who can do it for $100 or £100 or whatever that would be so often. But if you really want an expert to do it right, and the methods that I mentioned, we can do Facebook funnels from $200 upwards. It really doesn't need to be overly expensive per month. That's our time for managing it. It doesn't really obviously include any ad budget, but if you're going to have any ad budget into this, you really want to have, I would say, maybe $400 a month at the very least, to sort of make any go of it. But if you can spend $400 on advertising through Facebook, and it's done right, guarantee anyone, and don't guarantee anything, which I just said earlier, but guarantee that will give you a really good return in terms of what you're trying to do, as long as it's targeted right. Don't get me wrong, like any form of marketing, there's always a little bit of test and measure. You have to make sure that you're hitting the right demographics, and the research will help towards that. But once you've done that, and you know the ads are running fine, and you spend a small amount of that budget initially to make sure that the ads are performing well, Facebook is giving you the feedback about that usually after a couple of weeks. Facebook will tell you that they're above average, below average, they're performing well, they're limited by budget, whatever that would be. Then that's when you can start increasing your budget, when you think that, okay, this is actually looking like it's going to have some traction. You increase the budget a little bit more, and you keep doing that until you're at a more comfortable place. You just want to get that fine balance of good costs per click, lots of people coming to your website, bookings coming in, but not spending too much money and getting that balance right. So that's where an agency can spend that time. Though we look at every single account that we manage every single day. It's a little bit like watching the stock market. You're looking at it every single day. You're making sure that it's performing. Is there anything that you can tweak and change during that time? And just making sure that it is being as effective as it possibly can be. And that's what an agency does, or they should be doing day in, day out for each one of their customers. And that's the value that we bring.
And that I'm going to illustrate that point as well. I have had the opportunity of either watching other agencies work, or a lot of the customers or clients, I should say, that we've consulted for in the past, they've come to us because they've gone to agencies and they said, hey, we spent $100,000 with this agency last year and we got zero return on investment. And I actually know from personal experience as well, we've brought on agencies, and I say, hey, like, what are you doing? And often they're monitoring that account maybe once a month. And they're like, oh, maybe we should fix things, maybe we should tweak them. And there's not always transparency in what the results are of those campaigns either. And so unfortunately that exists. It shouldn't. It doesn't need to exist anymore.
It does.
Measure marketing.
Yeah, it really does. And it really makes pretty much every company that comes to me, I've had some sort of bad experience, and it makes my job really hard to try and convince people to come on. But to give you, anyone who's listening who's maybe using an agency just now or anything like that, no, you should be getting monthly reports. It should state exactly what you've spent, what the KPIs of that marketing campaign has been. Have you reached those KPIs? Has it been successful? You should get that every single month, and the agency should be on the phone to you, running through that report and actually saying this is what it means. Everything, because sometimes when people get reports, it's just full of gobbledygook that no one really understands. So it's taking your customers through. This is what you've made. This is what you've spent, etc., etc. And just going through it, very plain English, as much as possible. Every agency should be providing that. So if you're not getting that just now, though I have worked in agencies in the past, it's one of the reasons why I set up my own agency, because I know how bad they can be at times. But you should be getting those reports every single month. You should know every single number that's been spent and being made from your agency. And that's what we provide our customers, so they know exactly what they're getting.
So what that tells me, the thought that's coming to my mind here is, there's no reason, if you have the potential to spend an ad budget starting at, let's say probably no more than that, let's say minimum $600 a month. I don't know if that's fair, but that tells me that there's no reason not to have a conversation with somebody like you, because I'm going to go ahead and say that there's going to be very few business owners out there who have the time and capacity to learn the in-depth things that they can be doing with Facebook. Facebook's a super powerful tool, but part of that power comes with a lot of complexity in the way that you can set up those campaigns and who you target and all of those things. So it's in my opinion, it's not worth learning all of that if you have a business to run on top of that. So
it's worth watching videos. It's worth watching a Udemy, type of thing where you get a sense of how it works. Any business owner should, when you're doing any form of marketing, so no agency or no other guru or expert can sort of pull the wool over your eyes and say, oh, this and that, and you just don't know you don't know anything that they're meaning or anything they're talking about. So having some form of understanding is always a benefit, to be honest. And anything you can do that, you can find that on Google, you can find that on YouTube. It just takes a quick 10-15 minute search, and you'll be able to find some of this stuff, or even get a second opinion from someone else, and make sure that whoever's doing things for you is giving you the right information and the proper information, because no one should be spending 100,000 and not seeing a return. No, they should have saw that happening 3 months in, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and that part I completely agree with. I think if you're going to have a business, you need to know the foundational aspects of anything that you're involved with. However, I don't think that it's worth knowing the minute tactics of how to use that thing. And in that case, yes, you want to delegate that out to someone that has spent years learning the subtleties of that platform or that tool, in which case that's obviously someone like yourself. So yeah. So Chris, where would someone, let's say that they're like, okay, they're listening to this and they say, all right, it sounds like it's worth exploring this, at the very least, exploring this whole Facebook advertising thing. And it sounds like there's potential here for good return on investment. The analogy that I like to give, and maybe you've heard this before, is if you go to someone like you, it's like having someone build you a magic box, because what that magic box is it's that box where you put $1 into that box, and someone like you knows how to build a magic box that dollar, once you put it in, you reach back into that box and you pull out 10 or 100 or 1,000 or whatever. But you have where it makes no sense not to put money into that box, because you put money in the box and more money comes back out. Now, I know obviously it's not quite as simple as that, but in some ways it is. So what would be the first step? Someone's like, okay, I need someone like Chris who's going to build me a magic box. What's the first step that someone should take if they want to start exploring this form of direct response marketing?
That's a good question. I suppose one is obviously make sure you can afford to have an agency do it. Just make sure it's, you don't do it that it's to try and save some issue in your business. Don't get me wrong, an agency can help to a certain extent for that, but it's an agency is more worth your time and money and effort if you're at a stage where your business is fairly comfortable, but you want to push it more, you want to expand more, you want to have a better lifestyle or whatever that would be, so you can actually hire more people. That's when I would say, okay, start using an agency to start producing some of these things for you, start making your life easier so you're not doing these things yourself possibly, and making sure that you're generating lots of leads and revenue hopefully further down the line. So if you're at a stage where you want to grow your business, that's when to approach an agency. Now, if you're doing it as a hobby, if you're a small business, then maybe an agency is not quite right for you. But if it's, we have some companies who we help who are just one-man bands who do it as a way of generating extra revenue because they want to leave their current job and make this a success. That's what we're trying to help them out with. So if you're at that stage, we can certainly still help, but just make sure in your heart of hearts that you can afford it and that you can dedicate time to it. Because what normally happens is people maybe think, okay, we'll try this, in 2 or 3 months and they'll go, oh, I don't know if I can afford it. I can afford that now or anymore. Or anything like that. You at least want to engage with an agency. I would say minimum 6 months, 12 months. You want to at least sort of start to see return. So it's not just a short-term partnership, and that's the way it should be. It should be a partnership. You want to make this a long-term partnership that's going to generate you what you want further down the line. So it's not a quick fix, but long-term, it could be very, very successful.
Let's also just quell the objection. Oh, well, maybe this only works to get people in my local market, or maybe this only works to get people in an international market. I think you can speak to this. You can run ads basically anywhere to any market to bring them to wherever you are. I just want to make sure I'm correct in saying that.
Yeah, no, like I said, we've got customers. No, I'm in the lucky position, and it's where my agency sort of stands out more from other typical marketing agencies out there, even the 1 or 2 other sort of tourism agencies that have cropped up over the last few years. Is 90%, although I'm based in the UK, 90% of my customer base is outside of the UK. So lots in America, all over Europe, New Zealand, Australia. We've even got a tour company who does expeditions to the North Pole. So there's literally not a corner of the globe that we haven't touched at some point or other. So what that has done is given us really good insights into knowing how different destinations tick, how different destinations that their customers buy. A customer buying in America is very different from someone in Croatia or Germany or wherever it would be. So we'd have that knowledge. So if you're a business who wants to target America or target one of these destinations, we have a lot of that knowledge in-house already. So, but with Facebook, you can target internationally, you can target domestically. It's the same with Google and SEO. You can make that as international as domestic as you want, but with Facebook, you can really hone down on it. So that's where, especially now with everything that's going on, domestic is going to be bigger going forward. Outdoor activities is going to be bigger going forward. Anything that brings people together and their family and friends, that's going to be bigger going forward. So that's the type of things that you can target those specifics on Facebook, and that's what's amazing about it. People who have got an upcoming birthday or an anniversary, someone who had a birthday or an anniversary during the lockdowns where they couldn't celebrate properly, that's a target audience for a lot of businesses out there, to bring those people who couldn't celebrate properly to their property for a stay with a hot tub and celebrating properly, whatever that would be. So you could do that on Facebook. You could target, and to give you another quick example, this was before we even just focused on tourism. We helped a company who was a letting agent. They were looking for people to obviously rent out some of their properties.
Mm-hmm.
So people who we targeted on Facebook were people who were recently married, people who were engaged, but also people who were recently divorced. Facebook can tell you that information because people will say they're in a relationship with someone as soon as they say no, they're no longer in a relationship with them. Facebook will know if they've been divorced or separated or whatever it may be. You can target those people on Facebook. This is how crazy the targeting is. So there is no excuse not to use Facebook, and there is no excuse to target absolute specifics. Find your niche market on Facebook and focus on them. And that's when you tend to get the better results. Just like my business, I focus purely on the sort of tours and activities market, and that's where a lot of my marketing comes from. And that's what I did in my own business, and that's what helped me massively grow my business as well. So it's niching down on those specifics.
And I'll touch on that point really quickly as well, is when you niche in on that market and you get very clear about who you want in and utilize that properly with Facebook marketing, it eliminates most of, not, I'm going to say all, but the majority of the grumpy clients or guests that you've had to deal with in the past. Facebook actually, at least in our experience, it does a pretty good job of filtering out the people that you don't want, so that you are booking people that you actually enjoy working with. And that is worth a lot more than just the cost of the booking. So
yeah. And that's what's good about the Facebook funnel as well. That is really good about the Facebook funnel, because as you're taking your customers down that funnel and down the journey, it's literally getting rid of the time wasters as well, getting to the people who really want to experience what you have. So.
Yeah. Awesome point. Well, Chris, we should probably wrap this up, but you've definitely delivered some gold for us. And I mean, from my perspective, I absolutely think that it makes sense to bring on an agency at a certain point. I mean, there's some micro operators out there where it's like, okay, yeah, you definitely want to do some research on your own. And unfortunately, that's one of the struggles of being a micro operator in some cases, is you do have to do quite a bit on your own until you can start outsourcing. But then when you can delegate this out, there are a few people out there that I would trust this to, but you are one of them. So I definitely want to point anybody that's watching or listening to this, if you're on the edge, at least give Chris a call. Ask him, check out what he's doing, see what they can do for you. It's worth having that conversation. So in that train of thought, how do people find you, Chris?
So they can find me through the tourismmarketing.agency, which is my main agency website. I also do a lot of free advice through my own podcast and video podcast, as well as audio podcast, called The Digital Tourism Show. I give out so much free advice. If I would have been a millionaire if I sold it all by now. So there's lots of free marketing advice if anyone wants to watch any of that sort of stuff as well, just to get a sense of who I am and my knowledge base and that of my team as well, sort of thing. So, and if they want to email me for any advice, Chris@tourismmarketing.agency.
Okay, awesome. We will put those links in the show notes. So wherever you're listening or watching this, we'll put those links in there so they can get directly to you. Awesome, Chris. Well, thank you so much for your time. Just before we jump off, are there any questions that we should have asked you that we didn't?
Oh, well, you put me on the spot there. That is a good question.
Tough one.
One thing there's one thing I would say is for your listeners and watchers is, if you are approaching an agency, ask for references. Because what will tend to happen, it happens even in my business as well, is maybe it's because of the amount of content, people trust me more, I don't know, but people will come to me, they want to take out services, and I've had people purchase my services or that of my agency within a matter of 24 hours, if less than that. But we'll always ask for references. Speak to that agency's own customers, their own clients, especially those who have maybe given them good reviews on various platforms, just to make sure they're genuine. All these other things as well. Just ask the questions, ask for references, and speak to the people who they've supposedly helped. We offer our references to anyone who gets in touch. We say, look, if you want to, there you go. Speak to a bunch of people. To get an idea of what we're like. Though I'm not saying we, like any other agency in any other business, we don't get it right every single time, but I'm proud to sort of say about 98, 99% of we've always been on point. So, but always ask for references. That would be the one thing I would always say to people.
Well, the only way that you can say that is if you're doing the right thing. So we appreciate that. All right, Chris, thank you so much again for your time. Like I said, you've dropped a few gold nuggets there. Hopefully people picked up on that throughout the interview. And just repeating again, we're going to include links in the show notes down below so you can find those there. That is all that we've got for today. So any parting words from you there, Chris?
No, I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity. And like I say, if anyone wants to get in touch, even if it's just for some free advice, feel free to get in touch and hopefully help you out.
Okay. Appreciate that so much. And if you want to check out any of Chris's stuff, he does have some really great free advice. I've taken a look at a number of your podcast interviews, articles. He's got a book as well, Lookers into Bookers. And that's definitely worth
Which is free at the moment. So
yeah, if you're into marketing and you're into tourism, then it's the thing to have on your shelf for sure. Okay. Thank you again, Chris. And hopefully we'll speak again soon.
that was great. Thank you so much. Speak to you soon.